Is there actually any difference between cheap and cheerful Crayola and much more expensive Polychromos pencils? Let's find out. I want to try something a little bit different today and do a pencil comparison. I've been to my local craft store and picked up these Crayola pencils. This is a pack of 36 and cost me £7.50, but I think you can get them in the US for about $6 at Walmart. I want to compare these pencils to these much more expensive Polychromos pencils. To give you an idea, we're looking at $6 versus $75 for the same size set. The question is, are these pencils over 10 times better than these pencils? Let's find out. So I think the first thing to do is to get the pencils out and have a look, have a compare. I've got one of each pencil here so we can take a bit of a closer look. The wood casing on the Polychromos is really nice and smooth, and the Crayola is really rough, and I'm not sure how well that's going to sharpen. It's also worth noting the thickness of the lead is very different. The Polychromos lead is much thicker than the Crayola and feels more substantial when you hold it in your hand, but then you would hope so at much more expensive. And I think that's about all I can see. Ultimately, we're not going to know how good these pencils are without putting some colour down on the paper. Now, if you watch my previous video from Sunday, you'll know that the first thing I do whenever I get any colour pencils is create a swatch. If you haven't watched the video about swatches from Sunday, I'll pop a link in the description so you can catch up. All I'm trying to do here is match similar colours between the Crayola and the Polychromos. Because I want to draw the same picture twice to make comparison easier, I need to make sure that this is as fair as possible. And it's a good opportunity for me to get a feeling for the Crayola since I haven't used them before, and see how well I can get it to go from dark to light on the swatches. So now I've done my swatches and I've roughly matched the Crayola pencils to the Polychromos. I think the only way to know how they compare is to draw a picture, but draw the same picture side by side. So let's do that. I've picked a picture that will test a number of the different aspects of colour pencil drawing. I'm going to draw a sunset, which is going to help us compare the vibrancy of the colour. And it's a sunset with a hot air balloon on it. I wanted to do something that would add a little bit of detail and see how they both perform on the finer aspects of colour pencil drawing. It's a sunset above the sea, so we can also see how well all the colours blend, both on the sunset and in the sea, and see how they both perform as far as texture goes. As far as they both feel from putting the first bits down on the paper, the Crayola feels quite scratchy, whereas the Polychromos feels much more creamy and smooth. I'm also finding that I have to work a lot harder to get the colour down on the paper with the Crayola. And even with building it up more with the Crayola, it still looks more washed out than the Polychromos. That said, this is only the initial layer, so it is too soon to judge on the colour vibrancy. Now, the Polychromos pencils are professional grade artist pencils, and one of the things that gives you is excellent light fast properties. This means how long the colours will last before they start to fade. To give you a bit more of an idea on this, there is 120 colours in the Polychromos range. Out of those 120, 102 colours have 3 stars. 3 stars being that the colour will last over 100 years. 18 of the colours have 2 stars and only 2 colours have 1 star. 1 star means that it will last somewhere between 5 years and 25 years before it starts to fade. With Crayola, there's not much information on how light fast they are. I did find a couple of home experiments which showed that some colours in the Crayola will completely disappear in about 6 to 8 months, which is obviously not great if you want to draw something to put on the wall and keep on the wall for longer than 6 months. It also means that they're not an option if you're wanting to draw commissions for other people. Back to the drawing, and I'm starting to get some deeper colours in here now. The black at the top looks quite similar, but now I'm doing the blue, you can start to see the differences. The Polychromos blue is going on in a more even way, but with the Crayola you can see a lot of the pencil marks and it looks quite scratchy, which is interesting when you bear in mind that I did them in exactly the same way. The black to blue has blended well though on the Crayola, and this part isn't hugely different between the two of them. Where they start to really become quite different is in the redder tones of the sunset. You can see here just how vibrant the Polychromos are and how well they blend together in comparison to the Crayola. The Polychromos also created this colour much easier and with far less pressure and layers than with the Crayola. I think what I should do here is get the detail work in with the hot air balloon and then come back to the sunrise section. I think I should see if there's anything I can do to get the Crayola anywhere closer to the vibrancy of the Polychromos. So with that in mind, let's see how both pencils cope with detail. This part wasn't actually a completely fair test. The trouble I had was trying to find a pencil sharpener that actually sharpened the Crayola pencil. It seems like all of my pencil sharpeners just shredded it to bits, so I wasn't able to get the sharp point that I had on the Polychromos. Nevertheless, it did still do a decent job. I think that if I had have managed to get that sharp point, they would have looked even more similar, although I don't think they look particularly different. I think the Polychromos one is just more vibrant. As we're getting towards the end here, you can really start to see the difference now. I would say that both are blending very nicely. It is worth saying on the Crayola, if you go over a spot too much, then it starts to sort of come back off again, which you can see happened up here. But the main difference is still coming down to the vibrancy of colour. The Polychromos are just brighter. That said, I don't know that you'd notice unless they were right next to each other. All in all, I would say that both pencils have managed to create a nice drawing. It has been a lot less effort getting the Polychromos pigment down on the paper than with the Crayolas though. I would be interested to see how these both fare in 6 months' time, so I think I'm going to pop them up on a wall and revisit this in 6 months and see how they're both looking. Now that I've finished the pencil work, I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to help reduce the scratchiness. So I'm going to try using some baby oil with a Q-tip to see if I can blend it out a bit. And as you can see by the end of this, it has really smoothed it all out and it doesn't look dissimilar at all now to the Polychromos picture. Until I do the same on the Polychromos. So, do I think that Crayola are as good as Polychromos? No. But credit where it's due, they are actually really good pencils, especially when you bear in mind the massive price difference. So if you're thinking about starting colour pencil drawing, but you don't want to spend $75 on a full set of colours before you even know if you like it, I would 100% recommend Crayola pencils. They are a great starting point to give you a little taster of what colour pencils are like. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a like and don't forget to click the subscribe and the notify bell so you never miss an art tutorial. Happy drawing guys, I'll see you in the next one.